Hold on. We are alive. We are alive, and it's so good to see you, Julia.
Hi, Aya. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, and I have everything set up. This is my painting that I did midweek. I don't always do one.
Oh, wow. I really like it. She has like a 60s vibe with the headband.
Yeah, yeah. And then I used, when I made a short of it, I did something in the sun, seasons in the sun.
Oh, yeah, Seasons of the Sun. I saw that. Yeah, yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, which is kind of a 60s kind of is it a 60s song? It
Late
feels like
60s,
it.
early 70s, I think. Like,
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
in this.
something like that. Yeah, so I thought it went well with it.
Yeah, it turned out really nice. I really like it. She kind of looks a little bit like Sword, a little bit, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, I can't help it. I
No, I
love to.
like it though. It's just I could kind of imagine if Sword like lived in the 60s and she had like the slick. It's really pretty. It turned out good.
Thank you, thank you. So I think I picked out something I was going to paint. Going to try to figure out where I put the thing that I
And while I was doing that, I'm just trying to share the live stream because I would like people to watch it on. And we really appreciate it if you guys like could like or share or subscribe. That really helps us out. So you could do that below. Like you want to help us out, you can like, share, and subscribe.
also wanted to show you something else. I'm not painting it right away, but um, if I decide to do still life, I think I would do this.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I like it.
You know what? Um, Somebody contacted me, and she has letters of my father,
Oh yeah, you told.
and she also has a frog that my father gave her, and it's a wooden frog. And so I asked my mother, "Do you have any of those wooden frogs?" And she has one like this, and I have one like this too.
Oh my
So,
god, that's really cool.
yeah,
Is there a meaning behind the frogs or anything? Like,
I have no idea. Maybe if I read the letters, then I will know.
okay, I was just wondering if you knew offhand or
Well,
I was.
my mother has a whole collection of frogs, and but I think it all started when my father gave her a frog, and she doesn't actually remember that part of it. But not that I remember, because it was way before I would have memories. But um, I think maybe he gave her one frog, and then she got a few more frogs, and then people started giving her frogs. All
Oh,
the people that she knew started giving her frogs, and then she had a really big collection. And then one day she said, "You know what? I don't need any more frogs. Please don't give me any more."
that's funny. You know, my mom, she has like a little frog ceramic, and it looks really cute and charming. Okay, until you turn it over, it looks anatomically like not like a frog, but like a man. I'm like, oh, okay. They're like, yeah,
Okay.
they didn't know. I know that sounds weird. That sounds weird. They didn't know when they bought the frog. Okay, it just looks like a cute little frog.
Okay. All right.
So,
Well, I don't think this one does that, but I'll tell you what it does do. It opens up its mouth. It's got like a hinge, and it can, like, if you have letters that or bills you have to pay, you can put them in there, and it
that's
will
cute.
hold them, and you'll have that organized.
That's very cute. I like it.
So I'm just gonna paint a lady in a magazine. Well, I'm not necessarily gonna paint her, but just use her as a model.
Yeah, it's like a reference kind of inspiration.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it was just surprising because when you think that you buy a cute little frog, like you don't think it's gonna be a weird thing. Like they found it at a swap meet. They're like, oh, it's a cute frog. I don't know. That was weird, but okay.
All right. Well, I guess it takes all kinds.
Yeah, it kind of makes you like. I guess you have to turn over the ceramic, like, and look at it. I just never would have thought, like, okay, like they want to play with people's minds or something. I don't know that particular artist.
I'm gonna see if I can actually kind of be sideways when I'm painting, so not
Okay.
necessarily the back of my head that people see.
It's kind of tricky sometimes to think of different setups. Like I am trying to consider. I have tripods, but the issue is this: they're more for like my phone or a camera, not from a laptop. If you know what I'm saying.
Hmm. So I started watching this anime that is about a young boy in high school who suddenly realizes that he's interested in art,
Oh,
and he's obviously it's a Japanese show, so he wants to go to university and study art, but his mom can't afford to send him to a private school, so he has to find out about what kind of programs are available that he can afford.
like scholarship type programs or
Well, there's just one university in Japan where it's a public university and you can study art, and it's a very good one, a very good program. And if you get in, then it's pretty much free, or it's very reasonable if it's not free. Okay, but
Mhm.
it's so
Getting
hard to
into.
get in.
Yeah, that's what I heard about Japan. Like once you're in college, the coursework isn't quite as strenuous, but it's very difficult to get to that point, is what I've heard anyway.
Well, I don't know that this coursework isn't strenuous, but he just wants to study art and he can't afford to do that unless he gets into this one program.
I guess I'm thinking about in comparison to the way that Japanese students study when they're in the like lower grades up to their high school level, where they go to cram schools, and unlike Americans, they're studying around the clock to basically place.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
for
much
the place.
meritocracy, right? I mean,
Yes, it's for the placement. It's because their future will be decided by which school they end up going to eventually. So once they get into the school, then they just have to study their subject, but they no longer have to be in so much competition.
I just didn't know if it was still that way in Japan, like how much these days. I haven't looked into it if it was still that competitive, or I was just curious.
Yeah, I think it's quite a bit more competitive than, actually it's competitive here too if you're trying to get into
Into
the
a good school, like a very, very, very good school. Yes.
right. It's just that most Americans don't care. It's just Americans of a certain class who even try. So in Japan, pretty much all the Japanese care what school they get into.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't,
very much
yeah,
more
not
right.
as Americans care about that. That's the only difference, really. Where Americans, their education is not the most important thing unless you're in the educated class.
Like
And
more
then,
academic people, I would say.
yeah, so then you have parents who push children and stuff like that. Otherwise, you don't have parents who push children.
I mean, of course, every society has those parents. I just think it's a different structure, so to speak.
Can you hear any ducks?
I kind of do. Are they outside?
Yes, they are.
Oh, nice. I'm glad that they're having fun.
Yeah. Now that Drake isn't around, our female is, the head female,
Hmm.
Daffy, is taking over the role of announcing things to everybody.
Oh, wow. Well,
In
yeah.
fact, last night she wanted to make sure I was going to lock them up before she agreed to go up. I mean, she kept coming up to me like she was trying to tell me something.
Hmm.
Because I happened to be outside before their bedtime. I'm not always able to be there for that, but she kind of wanted to let me know that they were going to bed and she would appreciate it if I would lock the door after them.
Oh, wow. Well, that's good. It sounds like they're looking out for each other, or she's mostly like the head duck.
Right. She's taken over the role of Drake. I mean, not the bad role, but the good role.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad what happened, but at least some of them are still okay. So that part's good.
Yes. It's not, I saw a snake yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And
What
there,
kind of?
I'm not sure. It wasn't a black rat snake, but I think it was still not a poisonous one. And the ducks were standing around, sort of keeping out of its way.
Well, that's good, right? At least
Yeah.
they.
Oh, that snake wouldn't have wanted to eat them, but he might have wanted the eggs.
Oh, that's true. Some of them just want eggs. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
He was way too small to swallow a whole chicken or duck.
I just never know these days with everything going on in the world. You never know what's going to happen next sometimes.
Right. That's true.
But I guess that's the most logical thing. I'm ready for everything. I feel like lately, I'm just like, okay. One time years ago, just the most unusual thing. This lady, I was working one day, and there was this lady. She was just walking around. I guess she had a tag hanging out of her jacket. And this other lady came up to me. She goes, "Can I borrow a pair of scissors?" And I'm like, "Okay." And she went up to the lady with the tag hanging out. She goes, "By the way, I just want to cut the tag off your shirt." And the other lady's like, "Oh, okay." And they were just both very casual about it. But some people were like, I don't know, most people wouldn't be okay with someone just coming up to them like that. But they both were just like so nonchalant about it. It was kind of strange. I was like, "Oh, that's
Did they
interesting."
know each other, maybe?
No, that was the weird thing. Like sometimes these weird things happen where people don't even know each other, but they're just so nonchalant, and the other person's like, "Oh, okay." And you know how they're always talking about people getting mad about the littlest things? I've seen the other extreme where some people are just so like blasé about things. I'm just like, you never know. It can go both ways sometimes.
Yes. I wouldn't risk it myself.
No. That's why we were shocked because, like, after the lady brought the scissors back, we did ask her. I said, "Oh, you guys knew each other?" She goes, "Oh no, I just wanted to." Very, very blasé. I just wanted to cut the tag off her jacket, and then she just walked away. And somebody else was like, "That's weird." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd be afraid that, like, if I didn't know someone, they might get mad. I don't know."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I don't know, just more weird stuff. Like, I'm never gonna take a ride from anybody. Like, no, nobody's interested in that. But okay, I don't know why anybody thinks that I'd be interested. Like, it was weird again. Once again, this guy, looked like he was turning in to go to the Nick's Burger. It's a burger place. So I just thought, okay. So I was waiting for him to turn, And then like he was being really slow at turning, and then he turned in, and then he pulled out, and he pulled up to me, and he goes, "Hi." And I just said hi and kept walking, and then he goes, "Ugh," and he took off. And I thought, well, that's strange. I thought you were going to go out to eat. Like, why? What? I don't know. That was weird too. So there's always weird things going on in the world. I can't predict people.
Well, when I lived in Texas, a lot of people would, and I like to walk. I do. So if I went walking in my neighborhood, a lot of times people would stop and they would offer to give me a ride, and it wasn't anything bad. It wasn't like they were planning something bad. It was just that they could not imagine why somebody would go for a walk unless their car had broken down and they needed a ride.
Yeah, it's just so unimaginable, I guess.
Yeah.
And
So
some,
I had I had to learn not to get mad at them for this, because they were misunderstanding me.
I mean, I know that there's people like that, and I'm not mad at those people, but lately that's not the vibe I get. It's more just like people that are just trying to pick people up. And I don't think it's somebody trying to be nice to give me a ride in that case, because I just said hi, and they didn't even ask me if I wanted a ride. And then when I didn't acknowledge him, he like sighed, really upset, and he sped off. So that was just kind of weird. I don't think that was somebody that had like a good intention, like, oh, I just want to give you a ride, like I'm being neighborly. It wasn't like that. It was just weird.
Well, I don't know what people are like in California. I know that I'm not aware of the
Well,
situation.
I would say 10 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, people were more neighborly, okay? But it's that thing again I'm telling you about how there's more people moving here. There's people moving here from out of state, which really surprises me. I'm like, oh, okay, I thought it went the other way. But I don't know, like people work from home and they can live anywhere they want, I guess. So our population has gone up a lot recently. So there's just more activity that's kind of like city activity that's not really what I'm used to, I guess. So I just ignore it. And I don't mean to sound mad. I'm just telling people that they should be cautious. Like, I don't know, just ignore. I would just ignore anybody that does that. That's just my advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
Because if it's a neighborly person, because there have been people before that legitimately like just wanted to give me a ride. And my one neighbor, he's just really nice. He's like, oh, I want to give you a ride because you're carrying groceries. And he's just a very legitimately nice person, and he just was being neighborly, and that's nice. But this was not that.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think people are more neighborly, like in Texas and like some of the Midwestern states. There's more of a neighborly feeling, I think, in communities, right?
Yeah, but I mean, again, I had to learn to adjust to the way they were thinking about the situation because I thought, well, my goodness, can't I just go for a walk?
Yeah, it
But
kind of is like
they just thought it was weird that I wanted to do that.
yeah, it's interesting adjusting to that because a lot of people just walk. A lot of people that drive like to go walking in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
or they
Yeah,
like to walk in the day. I don't know. Like a lot of, it's kind of a big thing. Like,
yeah. I mean, for me, it's a time to think, the time of day when I can go walking. But now I don't have this problem because I walk on my property and nobody else is supposed to be here. So,
yep, you would have a like they would be in trouble if they were there. Huh?
right.
Supposed to be there. But the good thing is that's actually, I know people are always like, oh my gosh, it's so scary. That's why I always thought it was funny. Like when I grew up in the mountains, yeah, it's quiet at night, big deal. But I guess like one of our neighbors said when he moved up there in 1990, oh my God, he had to like sleep with his gun because it was so quiet. I'm like, that's how it's supposed to be in the middle of nowhere. There is not supposed to be noise because you're out in the middle of nowhere. That's the point. But he thought the noise was going to come and get him. That's what he was scared of. Just kind of.
Yeah.
But I get it. I guess if you lived in the city all your life, then maybe it is scary. I don't know.
No. I don't know what that sound was. Did you hear kind of an electronic sound?
It's my silly computer again. I still need to disable it. It keeps telling me I need to turn on the antivirus. I just haven't done it yet. I'm sorry.
Have you allowed it to make you go on Windows 11?
I did. That's the problem. It forced me, and I didn't tell it no that day. That was what happened.
But I
So
thought you said you were going to take it back, that you could take it back.
you can, but then you have to uninstall it and do all these different things. So I never got around to it. I've just left it alone because honestly, to be honest with you, I just use the laptop when I live stream and I haven't really done much with it. So I was thinking about doing that. I just never got around to it.
Okay. Yeah, they're trying to force me, and they do these tricky things where one time saying no is on one side and sometimes it's on the other side, and you really have to pay attention because they're just trying to trick you to say yes.
Yep. So yeah, it makes little noises and it's telling me I need to install antivirus, but I don't really plan on doing that. So sometimes it'll make a noise and it's just on my end. That's why it made a noise, essentially.
Mhm. Well, I was just trying to pay attention just in case we had any
Yeah,
people.
viewers. Well, I hope somebody would like to comment and share like what they've been drawing or if there's any artwork that they're doing lately. That would be really cool.
Yeah, it certainly will. It's very nice to have someone do that.
So it was really interesting that talk I did with Rita. I
Hmm.
decided to record it because she's never done StreamYard. Plus, I just thought since she wanted to do a talk about her ebook, I thought it'd be nice if I could edit it, which I'm going to do. I'm going to premiere it on the 17th. But it was just really fascinating because she explained how, well, she wanted to be very careful about it, and I respect her. She could have said outright. She said the first time she had alopecia, no, tele, intelligent effluvium because of COVID, and then she got the vaccine and it triggered it again. It was really interesting. Like, so that'll be an interesting video, I think, just her whole experience and how she recovered from it and what she had to do to recover from it. Because she went to a dermatologist and the first one didn't take her seriously. So I think it's a very interesting discussion. So
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, and I've heard from another person that she lost her hair um, as a result of COVID, and I think it's very similar to what you were telling me about Louisa May Alcott. What disease did she lose her hair from?
Louisa May Alcott. Did I mention that? That she lost her
Uh,
hair? Was that?
yeah, I think she was volunteering, remember, as a nurse or something
Hmm. I'm trying to recall.
during an epidemic. Was that not her?
I can't. I don't think it was her. I could be wrong. I'll have to look back. Do you remember what video it was that I talked about that in?
I don't know. There were a couple of different times when we were talking about Little Women,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something, I guess it was during the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
She volunteered to work in a hospital. Is that
Mm-hmm.
true or not?
I might have pulled up a website that mentioned that because it's not something that sticks out in my memory. So I might have read it off a website or something. It sounds like. It sounds like it was something I was screen
Okay.
sharing, maybe.
Well, maybe I'm thinking about a different person, but I mean, that's who I have in my mind is that it was
Well,
Louisa
you're
May.
probably right. I mean, you're probably right. I'll just have to go back later and look because now I want to figure out, like, I mean, it sounds vaguely familiar. I just don't know why I'm not thinking about it right now. It just didn't stick in my mind, I guess.
Uh huh. I mean, I think it was, we were comparing what her real life was like versus what happened to Joe, you know.
That could be it. I'll have to, yeah, I think I'll have to look back and see what we discussed in that video. I'll have to go back and,
But I think she got some kind of disease, and I cannot remember what it was in the hospital. You know, she caught it.
okay.
And actually, you know, in the book, it was Beth who got the disease, I think, and
Yeah,
died.
it was Beth because she was helping the neighbors and,
Yeah. But I think that in real life,
right, it was actually Joe.
yeah, it was Louisa May Alcott, you know, who is not exactly a Joe, but
But she's kind of Joe's the archetype for, except
yes,
Louisa
yes.
May Alcott, I don't think wanted to get married, but the storyline of those times basically forces them to have the character get married, essentially. See,
Yeah.
that's the funny thing is they act like nowadays like this is a new thing that, oh, like women always had to get married, but that isn't true. People used to be really rude to spinsters who just decided not to get married and I don't know have cats, and that's been a thing for thousands of years. It's
Hmm.
not a new like thing, I'm not going to say what the political stand, you know what I'm saying, like they act like it's so new, like there's never
Yeah.
been women who didn't get married or independent, like that's always been a thing actually.
Yeah. Well, you know, Queen Elizabeth I chose not to get married. She certainly could have.
Exactly. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And they act like, but now like I know you don't do the TikTok, but it's just like every time they bring up that issue again, they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, this is the first generation where women are independent. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, there's always been independent women. And actually, what I find pretty ironic about that whole, not even that part, but just like a lot of people who claim that they're so liberal and independent, like, they're usually the first ones that make fun of women who don't really want to settle in a relationship. Like I've known a lot of liberal women who act like, oh, you need to be in some sort of marital status to have validation. So it's funny they're doing the same thing that they accuse some conservatives of doing, but I actually know conservatives who don't even do that. So I don't know. That's just my observation about how silly all this political stuff is these days.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
It's not even that important. It's just like it. I've never seen this much on that algorithm before. Before I just saw things more recently that were tied to me and that I was interested in, but then all of a sudden it's like it keeps telling me that I want to see this topic and I'm just so over it. I don't want to see, so I just stopped looking because I'm like, I really am not interested in looking at that all day. But for some reason, I think they've decided that that's what we need to see. So whatever. I kind of saw that on YouTube too. Like there were a couple of videos, and I'm like, no, I'm not looking for this. No, thank you.
Well, I generally don't let YouTube decide what videos I'm going to watch. I decide what I'm going to watch, and they show me stuff I don't want. I just don't watch it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just didn't watch it, but it's a little bit different on TikTok because it had been telling me, like, it had been showing me videos that I actually did like for a while, but then the last couple of weeks, I'm just getting a whole bunch that aren't really what I want. So it had been pretty conducive. Like, you don't have to watch it, but I actually ended up watching previously because it was basically people that were showing how to. I know you're not into the couponing apps, but I was looking at stuff like that, or crafting, or budgeting, or decorating, and then all of a sudden, I'm getting all this social justice stuff that it's never been on my feed before. So I don't know. It's just weird, but I guess not surprising.
Well, I don't know what exactly is going on in the world, but
I mean, I know you're very good. Like you don't even use the app, but I just kind of like to mention it because some people do, and I think a lot of people would probably just go along whatever they're telling it to watch, and that kind of concerns me. I don't know, but at the end of the day, I guess I just stop looking if I get bored.
well, it's whatever you want to watch. It's your life, right? Not
Yeah,
none of else. Nobody else gets to tell you what to watch.
yeah. I mean, nobody's gonna force me to watch something. I guess my only concern about it is this: is that if there's like a video where somebody comes on and they're saying something like in a very just like authoritative way and somebody's like, oh my gosh, like that's the truth, but it's just a political opinion, it's not like the truth, that's just the thing, like it's political propaganda.
Well, political propaganda has always been there, and it will probably always be with us.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
people just need to have, the strength to say no to it.
uh-huh. That's true. Because I guess sometimes I don't want to spend a lot of time doing current events, but sometimes I will just look at the things to see like what are the new things, the trending things, because I have that kind of interest in technology, just to be curious about like what's new and whatnot.
Well, technology is one thing, and politics is quite another, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Previously, I was just interested in the app because I wanted to know what the new technology was. And actually, a lot of the people I was following on there, they were talking about how you can promote small businesses and things like that and couponing advice. And now it's like, but I'm taking a bit of a break from it because I started seeing things that were not what I was interested in.
Okay. Well, that's good. It's good you can do that. I think we're not sharing this in quite the right place because we've got 0 people watching this.
Well, I shared it on Facebook.
Yeah, me too. I did as well. And
I'm going to be honest with you. I just think it's a YouTube thing, though. I don't, because I used to, like, we used to do similar live streams, and I think we would just get so many more views. I feel like sometimes it's a YouTube algorithm thing.
well, it is an algorithm thing, but the algorithm was always there too.
It was, but they change from time to time where certain new things are picking up and getting more views. Although I see that you're doing pretty good with your views on the live streams. It seems like you've been doing pretty good, like views wise, the last couple weeks.
Well, I'll tell you what. I, I had an ambition on my other channel. I think I'll try to center myself. here so that I can be seen.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so I'm going to take a break from painting for a little bit and center myself and do a little bit of talking.
Okay.
So I had an ambition to have an interview show, you know, with you as a co-host.
Yeah, you and I think that's so amazing.
Yeah, so I did that for a really long time in the hopes that that particular channel, not this one, but that one, would take off as not just all about Bo, but also, you know, a place where we can share opinions and have different guests who have different specialties, you know, and have experts on different things, you know, that we're not experts on, but we're happy to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted that to happen. And uh, right now, if I don't have time to get a guest, then I just go on and talk about Bo and my animals and all that. And that gets more views, you know, so it's kind of,
I know, but I still think it's pretty cool that the last couple of videos actually got quite a few views. That's all I was thinking.
yeah, yeah, it is getting more views, but I'm just explaining why. If I had been doing that all along, I suppose it would have gotten views all along. Um, but I had a different ambition. I wanted a little bit more than that.
No, I know, and I still think it can go that way. Perhaps. I mean, I say keep doing it. It's about marketing, is what it is.
Yeah. But in that sense, I don't think the algorithm has changed. It's the same algorithm, really.
But they update it, and certain things do get favor over others. Like some things are trending. Like I'll be honest with you, I've had a couple of viral videos, but I don't think I'm gonna have more viral videos. I think that was just the one that took off, and it seems to kind of go the other direction now. Okay, like, and I even I did actually make a very edited video. I think it was pretty good, but it only got 136 views.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm not upset about it though. It's just what it is. So I guess at this point, like I'm just doing it more for fun, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think maybe we should have a marketing specialist on to explain to us what is actually happening because I think something is happening and it just depends on what the market is, you know, what people want.
Yeah, whatever's trendy at the moment. Although I've stopped using the key term long hair, that could be part of it, but I don't know. I don't have long hair right now, so it'd be kind of disingenuous to make videos saying long hair when I have short hair. So I think that's just part of the issue on my channel, to be honest with you. We always
Yeah,
knew.
well, yeah, once you change your focus, then you have to find a different audience that goes with the new focus, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah, actually, it's better in a way. And I'll be honest with you, because that interview I did with Rita was really interesting. And it made me think, like, I like when we do interviews with other people too. And I love that that's what you want to do with your channel. And I just find that so much more interesting than whatever else. Like, but that's my opinion. So I think it is about marketing, maybe finding a marketing specialist to speak to on this.
Well, I think that the hair loss issue is one that is affecting a lot of people after COVID. So I think that you've really hit on something there, and you might see a surge of new views on your channel with regard to that particular interview that you did.
I think it's good that no, I mean I thank her though because I never would have thought of that topic because I'm just like I knew she mentioned like I just thought it was really interesting. I was like, oh, like I know she had mentioned she lost hair to COVID, but I when she talked about like what it went into it and what triggered it and how it can be a lifelong thing after that, I just it was very interesting. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm doing mixed media though. Like because I have known that you could do pencil and then paint. Some people do pencil, they paint with acrylic, and then they do oil over it. But that seems like overkill. I don't know why you do all three, but yeah.
Well, as long as you get the result that you want, that's what's important.
And I'm just kind of doing it at this point because I given up on the colored pencil because I wanted the colored pencil to do a certain thing. But like I told you, because I glued it on here, parts of it are waterproof, so it's like basically I can't add color to certain parts of the paper. So that's just why I am kind of playing around with it.
I understand.
But I have to say, this is the weird thing. It's kind of fun, and it's an unusual texture to paint over the waxiness of, I don't know. Because it's funny, like I spend so much time coloring it, but like right now I'm having fun painting it, the parts that don't have color. I'm just kind of going with it, I guess.
Do you want to show me what you have?
So I'm just filling in the blanks where there was no color. See, like where it wouldn't stick.
Oh, nice.
Yep, that's what
I
I'm
like
doing.
that.
I don't know. It's just fun. Like but this part was already colored in, but I was like, I kind of like the way paint looks, so I just kind of went over it. It was just kind of fun. And then it kind of makes me think, well, maybe that's why I should be painting more than using colored pencil in the future.
Yeah, paint is a lot of fun.
Can manipulate it more. I used to feel the opposite. I don't know why I thought this, but I used to think, oh, like colored pencil is like so much harder and so much easier, and painting is so much more tricky, but it's not.
I think I know why. I mean, at least I know why I used to think, for instance, that watercolor was impossible to handle. Um, it's just that you get the delusion. I think it's not really true that if you're using a pencil, it's not going to run, and therefore you'll have more control. But when you learn to apply the paint, uh, then you can have just as much control with paint.
That's true. That is so true.
And you don't have to work as hard spreading it as you do with a Prismacolor kind of pencil.
Yeah, and they're expensive too. I was thinking about this because I went into my laundry room to get something out of there, and I'm just moving around some crafting supplies. And I'm like, oh, I have more Prismacolor pencils, and I spent a lot of money on them, and I like the way that but for them to fade, for everything to fade as quickly as it does, it kind of makes me mad. I'm like, you fade that quickly? I didn't sign up for this. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing. Like, yeah, they have some color fastness, but I'll tell you, 100 years from now, a colored pencil drawing is not going to be as intact as a painting. And that's just the truth of the medium.
Well, I don't know about this. I just finished this one, and
Yeah.
I don't know how long watercolor lasts. But since I'm keeping it in a sketchbook and I'm not putting it up on the wall, I don't think it will fade very much.
Well, I think it should last longer than colored pencil. That's just
Yeah.
my little guess, my little educated assertion about that sort of thing. I could be wrong, but
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to take her out because she's way too wet for me to start a new one.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
I'll just put her over here. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, painting's actually a lot better in a way because, like, why bother? Like, even for the background, because I was thinking about this too. Like, why would you torture yourself? Like, I mean, color pencils seem so much fun at first, but I'm just like, kind of, I'm getting more into Paintless right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the temptation was that you would get more control. Don't you think that was the original?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's all it was. And I liked a couple cat paintings, like quite a few that I did. But lately I've just been like, I can have like more control with the paint. And I think I should have known that all along. It's just an illusion that, oh, like, and then I think too, this is another thing. This is just my thought. And it's people that aren't even artists who say this, but I would say hear people say with such conviction, oh, I can only become a watercolorist like once I take like a professional course, which is fine. You can take a professional course, but there were these people that were saying like they could never paint with water paint unless they had taken a professional course. So they weren't even going to try. It's like, oh, see, but I'm a DIY kind of person. So I will teach myself something. Like courses are great, but I feel like for me, all a course will do is give you a few tips and maybe challenge you to see something beyond like, I don't know, self-study, but I think you definitely can be a self-taught artist, in my opinion.
Oh, of course you can. I mean, so that's part of what I've been watching that show, that Japanese show that I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
And they were actually talking about why to go to art school, and the reason isn't really that you couldn't do it as a self-taught artist. That was not the reason. Uh,
Oh,
the major reason is social,
okay.
um, because you get to meet other artists and you learn as much from the other artists as you do from your teachers. You can see their techniques. And you can socialize with them and see what they're doing and what their plans are for the future and what kind of career they're making for themselves. And um, so even with your teachers, it's not just to learn from them how to paint or do whatever it is, sculpt or whatever your art form is. It's to understand how to get jobs and how to market yourself and all of that.
Oh, okay. That's quite interesting, actually. So it's like a big networking experience in a way, right?
Well, if you know how to look at school in the correct way, all schools are like that. They are networking experiences.
Yeah, that's what I was always told. But I guess my problem was I was more like, I'm not saying that I can't talk to people, but I'm still pretty introverted in a lot of ways, but I was back then far more introverted. So I wasn't the kind of person that was out there networking when I was going to college, but it was
Well,
just,
I didn't know about it either. It's not I'm not talking about it from my own personal experience, but I should have.
I totally agree with you because, like, I heard people say that when I was in school, like, they were always like, oh, this is a networking experience. And especially the people in the business program, they're like, this is a way to make connections. And yeah, totally. There were always people that seemed in the know on that.
Yeah. So I think that's what it's all about. And it's the same thing when I went to Rice and I had a good experience with my fellow students. Um, my fellow students at Rice, the linguists, had a lot more to share a lot of the time than the actual professors.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, because you guys are both studying in the field, right?
Yeah. But I mean, you would have thought that the professors would have more to contribute to our learning. They didn't. But it
Huh.
was good to go there because we got to meet each other and learn from each other.
I think that's pretty much all it is. I really do think it's the networking experience more than the. Of course, nowadays it's funny because people act like, "Oh, I didn't know this because my teacher didn't tell me this in class," and I'm thinking, "Oh, you can't read about it and research this on your own. Like everything needs to be told to you in a lecture."
Right. I mean, I had that friend who was a music teacher, and she was taking an extra class in college about something. I don't remember what it was. And I asked her how it was going, and she said, "Oh, not too well because my professor didn't tell me where I was supposed to look up an answer to something." And I thought that was so weird. That
Yeah,
a weird complaint, you know?
I'm beginning to think though this is because okay, I feel like I'm a DIYer. Like I will look for things myself. I don't need somebody to show me, but I feel like some people think I don't know, they feel like that's what but I don't know. That's just my only complaint about school. I guess school was interesting, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think I'd go to school in California nowadays. Like if in 2022, I don't know. Wouldn't recommend it. Maybe other places it's different. But I don't know. Unless you like debt, like it's you could or wasting all your money. But that's kind of my thought on
Well,
it.
Julia, you really shouldn't spend your money on, especially not on grad school, you know? By the time you're in grad school, they should be paying you.
Yes, like if it's an academic program, they definitely should because you can be like a teaching assistant and you can do faculty type things for sure. Now, not in the education programs though. It's a little bit different. That's different though. That's more a career teacher track.
Yeah, I understand.
But I'm just saying, I don't think I'm going to go back. I thought about it, but I'll tell you why I'm not. Because basically, with a history degree, it would be if you want to teach history at the college level, or if you want to do some research like history corporate research. And then I looked at those positions and they don't really pay more than I make now. So I can't justify getting a second degree. And we know some people who actually got their PhDs in history and if they didn't want to be a professor, some of them ended up in the library field. So I thought that was interesting. I'm sure there's other possibilities. I'm just speaking of what I have come across.
Hmm. I'm sure that you're right with regard to what you've come across.
Yeah, I wouldn't, I love history, but that was what stopped me because that was the only thing I could think of getting my PhD in was history. But they said basically, well, if you want to teach history at the college level, which I really don't, and I know some professors, they're not really paid that well. They actually made less than the teachers, like the teachers that were teaching in the public school. And I felt like they just were not. This one professor, I thought he was very knowledgeable. He actually had written several books. He did a fellowship in Spain and Mexico. He taught at a university in Mexico for like 10 years, but I think it just took him forever to finally get tenure at this California university. And it was all down to bad reviews that the students would write, like, and not even based on anything. Like they could just say he sucked and give him 1 star. And then they'd be like, well, you can't have tenure now. I don't know. It just was really strange. And then another thing that kind of turned me off was, how we had the whole Me Too movement a few years ago.
Yeah.
So before that, there was one in our department, in the history department, and the whole department was divided. Like some of the professors that just kept to themselves, like they're like, we're not getting involved, and they weren't getting the accolades. But the people that were saying that like they were harassed because somebody said, oh, your book is not real research, so that was the ground for the sexual harassment. This lady wrote a book about the silk industry, and she got like some sort of criticism from one professor who never wrote a book. And apparently her book was was academically rigorous, but he said it wasn't. So she said that was sexual harassment, and they started a whole lawsuit. One person had actually been attacked by a professor, but this guy ended up committing suicide. But the other people, it was weird, and it just seemed like they overblew what the other people did. And I was just like, oh, gee, it's a lot of drama.
Mhm.
And then there was a reporter. I don't know if I told you about this, but they were trying to stop us outside of class to give us our insights on the whole scandal. And I said, I don't know. And I was thinking somebody could have said anything to them and they would have published that in the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were just a lot of things about academia and history departments that just didn't appeal to me, but I'm sure it's better in other places. That was just my experience. So I just didn't want to keep going down. And I think this was another thing that convinced me of that too. There was a person that was our graduate assistant, and yes, he was making some money through TA fellowships, but for some reason he never was able to get his PhD thesis approved, like his dissertation. I don't know what was going on, and he was there for like 5 years, and I was just like, wow, that's a long time. I don't know what was going on in his case, so I was just like, oh my. I assume most people finish a little bit sooner than that, but
Well, it depends on your work, how good it is and all that.
yeah, I think that was kind of the case. So I guess I'm just not meant for academia, so that's why I didn't pursue a PhD in history. Like, I didn't want to be a professor. I didn't want to teach. Like, I didn't even like teaching at the high school level. It wasn't for me.
Okay. That's not for everybody.
No. So I just thought, well, I'm happy doing my own little thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think we kind of went off the rails on that. All I was talking about was what that Japanese show was talking about, why you would want to go to art school. And that's not necessarily to be an academician at all. That might be because you just love art,
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily want to be a teacher of art. And maybe you actually want to become a graphic artist or something, or let's say you actually want to be a manga author, a comic book author who writes and also draws their own picture, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be going to the university with that in mind. And why would you do that? It's not because you couldn't learn all the skills on your own. Of course you could. And they weren't even pretending that you couldn't. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They were saying that it's a good place to learn from others. So yeah, you can be a lonely artist in a garret somewhere and all that. But if art is your life, and I'm not talking about people who just want to do it as a hobby. But if art is your life, it might be nice to meet a few other artists who feel the same way and learn from them. Some of what you learn from them will be technique. They might know something you don't know, and you might know something they don't know, and you can teach each other. And part of it would be you can also see what kind of jobs they get on the side and what kind of plans they have for the future. And you can learn about the possibilities, not that you're going to copy the other person's art and not that you're going to copy their career trajectory either. Each person has their own life, their own way of doing things, but you can still learn from others. That was the point of that so far of what I've seen of that show.
Okay. I guess that would appeal to somebody. Of course, we could also, I guess, say, like when it comes to art, the solitary artist, it's still their life. They're not making a lot of money doing it. They could be more talented than the people connecting with other artists. So I guess it just depends on what you want out of your art and what your expectation is.
Well, not just what you want out of your art, but how you see your life going, you know.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like this is my thought though, like the lonely artists who might like occasionally connect with somebody, they might be far more talented and create more things than so I guess it just depends, but I do see it yeah, art school is probably a very social networking opportunity for sure.
Yeah. And a lot of artists are introverts, so you might get to meet a lot of introverts. In other words, if you go to law school, you're going to meet a lot of extroverts.
Oh,
But if you
yes.
go to art school, you're more likely to meet people who are introverts.
See, I used to think that history people, that people who love history were introverts because I love to read books and blah, blah, blah. But that wasn't the case. A lot of them were wanting to be politicians or go to law school and they had that mindset. And I was like, oh my God. And then, like, I would just be doing my own thing and, like, I could do well on a subject, but they would want me to help them because they wanted to get a good grade because they didn't want to. It was just a lot of weirdness. Like, oh, like I'm not your secretary, but that's actually I got recruited by some people who thought that I could help them. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. But then later on,
So,
I think they networked with each other to go to law school and whatever they were doing.
okay, yeah. So anytime you're in a place where a lot of pre-law or pre-med people are gathering, those are the people who are there because they want to make money. And so you don't really want to be in those in those majors just because you do, if you don't like that kind of person, you know?
Yeah, I'll confess though, this is just my thought. Like I like talking to people, but I've never been this kind of person where my whole life was about, oh, what can I do like to network or make lots of money. I literally just wanted to study a subject, to read about it and learn more about it, and that's all I cared about for personal gratification. I wouldn't mind connecting with a few people, but I have a completely different reason as to why I went to school than other people. It wasn't like, oh, this is my end goal, I'm going to like network. But I get why art school appeals to people for these reasons though, like the networking possibility. It sounds great.
Well, what I'm saying is I had the opportunity to go to law school, and I did. And then I had the opportunity to go to grad school in linguistics, where you know that there aren't that many linguistics jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the people were so much nicer for me when they were at the school where there wasn't a career, just waiting for you. So,
I get what you're saying. So like if they're just people that you would have more in common with, like you could share academic ideas with, probably in the linguistic program.
yeah, so I'm not a very social person either. You know me. But that was a small enough place where socializing actually had something to do with the content of what we were studying. And I like
You know what's weird though about me though? Like I'm not a social person, but I'm interested in what other people are doing and I like to learn about the world. But that's not really something you can make a career out of. Like all the things I'm interested in, they're not really career things.
oh, I don't know. There's so many different careers out there. Maybe you just didn't find that one, the one that was for you.
I guess probably not.
I mean, see, there are nurturing people, and those people usually go into the nursing professions and whatever. Or there are, some of them go into taking care of children or whatever. Um, there are even people who are just good at cleaning and they can make a career out of that. They can have a cleaning
Oh,
service.
they make a lot of money. Or oh, cleaning? Oh my God. Like, yes, they make you'd be surprised. Some of them are doing really well.
No, I know they are.
Like,
Um, so there's a lot of demand for a lot of things that aren't necessarily what you hear about when they're recruiting you for some school, you know.
yeah, no, you're right. But I enjoy hearing about your experience in this show series that you're watching. Sounds interesting for anybody. I don't know, thinking about going to art school maybe.
Well, I mean, I'm not thinking about going to art school. Don't misunderstand me, but I think it's interesting to find out what people who do go to art school do it for.
I'm having fun painting, but the background paper is definitely a little too weak, but that's okay. I'm going to make it work. But you know what's kind of cool about this? I think it's finally forcing me to finish this thing. I've spent way too much time on it. Isn't it funny? I didn't even mean to paint, and somehow I ended up painting. I don't know how that happened.
Well, maybe it's because the title of the show is Paint with Us.
I know. I think I felt like while I feel compelled to paint, I'm like, I'm drawing, but it's about painting. Like, let's get with the program here. It's time to paint. Or mixed media thing. Oh, the paintbrushes are just sitting in paint. I need a bath later. Yeah, I'm not going to salvage some unless you wash certain paintbrushes right away. I let some sit and I threw them out because I'm like, I'm not going to waste any more. I think I was going to waste more time trying to salvage this group of paintbrushes. And I'm like, no, your time in the sun is done. Because you can go to Walmart and buy a multi-pack of paintbrushes for the amount of time it would take me to clean those ones out. So if you don't clean a brush right away, yeah, it's kind of over, in my opinion. Unless you want to keep cleaning it, you know.
Well, that's another thing, with acrylics, you really did need to clean them right away. But with watercolor, I find that I can just put them in water and they're fine.
That's nice. See, that was my problem because, okay, even the oil paint, I felt like you could kind of get away with letting them sit in oil or something and you'd be okay. But with the acrylics, oh no. So I just let that set go. But I thought, I'm not going to be so cheap. Like a pack of multi. And I have a whole bunch of paintbrushes anyway. So I'm like, I'm not going to try. Because I kept trying to clean this group of paintbrushes and soaking them. And I let them sit too long. I shouldn't have let the paint harden on them with acrylic. That was my fault.
Okay, well, so I finished my second painting now.
Oh, nice. Let me see. Oh, that's cool. So, yeah. Who did you paint? Who's it inspired by?
It's inspired by an ad in which everything is sort of in a reddish hue, and it's oversaturated. And because you know how they make those ads, they're not really trying to make a good picture.
Not really. I feel like it's just like they have a certain color emphasis to buy a certain product, like a certain feeling or something. Like,
yeah, I don't even know what that is for. It's Miu Miu. What is Miu Miu? You know?
I'll have to look it up. I don't know what Miu Miu is. That's interesting.
It's Miu. Maybe I'm not pronouncing it right, but anyway, it's some kind of product.
There was a funny episode of Seinfeld. I used to like Seinfeld because Jerry was making fun of the people that were in ads, and he was dating this woman who was a model in different ads. And then there was one where she was coming out of the shower. And he goes, "What are you advertising, nudity or towels?" And she goes, "No, look at the out of focus pair of jeans in the background." And he's like, "What?"
Right. There's no way for me to tell what that is an ad for, but I just tried to draw the model the way she is, kind of overexposed and all that. Anyway, I think my time for painting this afternoon is done. Okay. But I'm going to be a guest on your channel tonight at 9 my time. And we're going to be scribbling on a whiteboard, right?
Yeah, we're going to do whiteboard. So send me anything you would like me to use for the thumbnail for that one, okay? And then I'll come up with a thumbnail.
Okay, will do. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Bye.